Hello everyone, Rachel here, the Modern Shaman. Thanks for being with me for yet another YouTube Q&A video of the week. If you're new to my channel, I am glad that you're here. I always like to guide people to my website just because it's the best resource of all things the Modern Shaman, to kind of find out what I do, what I'm about, and what resources I offer for those of you guys that are wanting to dive further into their spiritual gifts or this realm of non-physical awareness. So again, my website's themodernshaman.net. I have been absent for the past few weeks, really just because no one has sent in a video question. That's the truth. And I kind of took that as my leave of absence permission from spirit to just be quiet, which is such a gift to those of us that are teachers and speakers and are always extroverting and sending out energy. It's such a beautiful counterbalance to have permission to just be quiet and to not speak and not respond. And so that's been wonderful. But I'm back today with a question that actually was a response question to a previous video that I did. And I'll put a link to that in the comments below. And the video was about Xanax and how Xanax can cause us to live our life from outside of the body. And a viewer asked if there were any other stimulants or foods, even caffeine, I think she mentioned coffee or chocolate, that might do the same type of thing and move us out of the body. So our question today is kind of how those things that we put in our body, whether it's a stimulant, whether it's a medication, can move us and our consciousness and the seat of that consciousness to live out a life that is not housed in the body, but outside in our auric field. All right. Before we get started into this topic, I want to say that every single person's body is unique. I feel like that's kind of understood, right? We have fingerprints. They're no two alike on this planet. And we know that. The same is true of our chemical makeup, our body, our DNA. So we may share similarities, but we are uniquely and divinely made. And so everything that I say and share on this video about how our auric field works, how our electromagnetic current works, how our chemical body responds, take it with an awareness that you're going to have to process that and note how it actually plays out and shows up in your body, okay? So let's start with atoms. We have atoms, right? Then we have molecules, which are those atoms kind of combined. Then we have compounds of those molecules. And if we have enough of those and we string enough of those together, we get chemical compounds that have reactions to them, right? So think back to your old chemistry class. And just like a math equation, we put these chemical compounds together in a long equation, and those have reactions. The molecules start to rearrange, and they have bonds that literally have an energetic change or an energetic reaction, okay? So anytime you eat something, anytime you ingest a pill or something that has a chemical compound to it, even when we have differentiating toxicity levels in the air, in our water, all of these have chemical compounds that move through our form and affect our body, okay? So they're going to have an impact on you. So a simple answer to your question of is there anything else besides Xanax that can move my consciousness out of the body? The answer is yes, absolutely. Everything that we take into our body has an impact on our chemical makeup. That's just the way the science of chemical reactions work, okay? So knowing that and having kind of a conscious level of creation of that empowers you in your own body to know what you're doing to it, to not be blind to the chemical reactions that you're causing and bringing upon your body, so that you know from which level of your auric field you are expressing your being for the predominant part of your life. So now let's talk about our auric field. And our auric field, if you've never studied the aura, It is our electromagnetic current. It's a frequency. It is measurable. You can measure it from electromagnetic radiation testers. It's just measuring the current. If I get it too close to my phone, you see that? Let me see what it says. Harmful levels, it does that when it's at a harmful level of radiation. Electromagnetic field is at 144 volts right there, right against my phone. So anyhow, you can buy these like on Amazon. They're not that expensive. Hang on, let me turn that off. Warning, caution, harmful levels of radiation coming from your phone. Anyhow, the auric field is the field of energy that surrounds your physical form, and it is measured, like I said, through frequency measurement, or the frequency is just the measurement of how fast those oscillations are moving. So we're measuring the frequency, the voltage of your electromagnetic current around the body. Now, if you've ever studied the auric field, there are 7 noded layers to your auric field. One is the closest to your body, which is just about like 1 inch out, is your etheric body. And this is mostly controlled or expressed through our human function, our physical body. If you're like very physically active, if you're moving, if you're an athlete, you tend to have, it's kind of like static electricity. You have a lot of like electric discharge in that etheric body. It's just a very small, and imagine you're like a Russian doll, right? You cannot see, unless you are trained to see auric fields or frequencies. You can't see this with the naked eye, but these are just different layers of the light spectrum. So like if you put on infrared goggles and you can see infrared light, this is there. We are just not seeing it with our naked eye and the optics that we're able to read in terms of frequencies of our naked vision, right? Naked vision of our eye, our typical optics and the spectrum that we can see of the light spectrum. But so that's the closest field back to the auric body. The second one is our emotional body, and this goes out about 3 inches from the body. Okay, so a lot of us, this is a lot of where people live when they're like highly dramatic people. They mostly hang out and live out their life through that emotional field. So they're not actually engaging from inside the form. They're more so engaging from just about 3 inches out of the body. And when you are, if you're an energy worker or Reiki practitioner, oftentimes you can see or feel these clogs or blocks of trauma, PTSD, fears that are clogged or kind of blocked in the emotional body that just run right outside of the form. Now, the emotional body, in terms of frequency, usually the range that oscillates in is around 15 to 200 hertz. Okay, that's the normal range. And the lower the frequency, typically the more negative the emotions. These are emotions that make you feel dense and heavy. And if you are highly clairsentient, which is the psychic sense of being able to feel the non-physical energy, feel emotions, when you are empathic, you're essentially reading these frequencies. All right, that's what you're doing. And you're kind of just like this. You are a frequency reader, reading everyone's emotional body and feeling it sometimes in your own emotional body also, the impact of that. So those frequencies, when you get into the higher emotional ranges, you're oscillating more up on the 200 hertz range. And again, this can be measured and it can be seen, it can be felt if you are highly clairsentient or trained with your psychic senses. Some people they don't call it that, but they're like, I get a vibe from that person, a depressive vibe. You pick up on that heaviness or that emotional tone to everything that they're putting out. All right, literally this is part of the energetic field or the auric field. It's that second layer in the Russian doll. The next layer is the mental field in the auric body. Remember, there's 7 layers of it, which each correspond with the 7-layer chakra system. So that emotional body is regulated by the sacral chakra. If you're familiar with the chakras, And it is also where our nervous system is impacted and where our hormones are balanced. So hello, like this is everything. So much of our human experience is regulated by our nervous system and by our hormone balance. And most of our chemicals and pills that we take for depression, mood stabilizers, stimulants, caffeine, chocolate, energy drinks, affect our rate within our energy body that is processed by our nervous system. So, but when I say rate, I mean like the oscillation. So this would happen with our heart rate, right? This is our stress. What people just say, I'm stressed out. Oftentimes that can be monitored by our blood pressure, our heart rate, our pulse, all of these things, our breathing patterns. And so it's creating this kind of wave of frequency that's moving out through the body, in and out of the body. This is processed through the cilia that are basically present in all organs of the body. So cilia are those little tiny hairs that are inside our ears. They're inside our pretty much every organ. They're inside the bronchioles and our chest. They're inside our brain. They're all over the place. And these cellular little hairs that are on the cells vibrate or process and kind of move things through. And this oscillation helps the organs function. It helps regulate and keep our body at a specific frequency that it's emitting, okay? It works in conjunction with the heart rate, like I said, your pulse, all of this is in conjunction. And so we are creating, if you can imagine, kind of like anytime you see an icon of a Wi-Fi signal, you're seeing this kind of 3 waves of energy, right? You maybe can't see it, like I said, through our optics, but you can feel it, and it is measurable. It is a frequency coming out through the body that's processed in every organ of the body and is also moving outward in the body. So now let's talk about when we take chemicals in. Those chemicals change or affect the neurotransmitters in our brain. Say we take a mood stabilizer or we take an SSRI, right? Like something that is medication for depression or something like this. It will affect the neurotransmitters in the body, which in turn shift the chemical release or the epinephrine, which is the adrenaline hormone, right, in the body, which affects our heart rate. It affects the calming aspect of the body. People will say, oh, I feel more calm, I feel more relaxed. This is essentially shifting that frequency and the oscillation of the cilia in the body so that it chills and it moves in a slower rate. And that oscillation is kind of impacted by those neurotransmitters or created by those neurotransmitters. And so the chemical compound coming in creates a chemical reaction through those neurotransmitters. Those neurotransmitters send it all out to the body, and that pulsation of energy moves you and your consciousness into more of a relaxed state within the emotional body, which is that second layer of your auric field. So essentially, you are living from a state that's a little bit outside of the body instead of inside of the body. And people often will prefer this state. The mental body, remember, is the third realm of our auric field. And this one allows us to kind of feel less emotional, more logical, and move through life with less of that fight or flight, fear response, or traumatic response to everything that we're doing. When we are in this state and our emotional body is regulated at a place of balance, we're able to kind of harmonize and utilize the function of all of these auric fields working together in harmony and balance. And they work like a circuit, and they feed and nurture one another. Similar to a toroidal field, if you've seen like a blender, right, that kind of blends and sends the energy up and out, but also back around and into itself. So they are self-sustaining systems that balance and keep themselves in the most high functioning capacity.